In this case, it would be unreasonable of you to conclude that somehow Sarah Widmer suffered some prior undiagnosed, undetected, undetectable medical condition that was neither too weak that she could have recovered, or so strong that would have killed her outright. She had had a cardiac arrhythmia of such force that the cause of death would have been a heart condition. Or if a seizure was so severe, the seizure would have killed her. But the cause of death in this case is drowning, which means that somehow it was just right to incapacitate her for such a period of time that it took for her to ingest massive amounts of water and die. This defense theory does not account in any way for the fact that the evidence that was found at the scene, the fact that the floor was dry, the carpet was dry, Sarah's body was dry, all the items on the outside of the bathtub were dry. They cannot account for the number and extent of her injuries. They cannot account for the bruising on the right side of her neck. They cannot account for the injury to the thyroid, over the soft tissues of her thyroid. They can't account for the bruising on her head, bruising under her arm in this protected area, the bruising on the back of her neck. The only reasonable conclusion is that Sarah Widmer was forcibly held with her head underwater until she was dead. The only reasonable conclusion is that Sarah Widmer was the victim of an intentional homicide. Members of the jury, I ask you to review all of the evidence that's been presented to you. Consider each piece of evidence that's before you. Use your common sense. Use your reason. The only reasonable conclusion that you can come to is that Ryan Widmer, with prior calculation and design, purposefully killed Sarah Stewart Widmer and murdered her by drowning.
They want us to believe. Now, I haven't heard them yet pinned down to a theory. I'm just throwing everything up on the board and hope something will stick with you guys. If this is a result, this bruise right here, is a result of Ryan strangling his wife, he's doing it from the front. He has his hand and arm right here, and she would not, again, what's she gonna do? Oh, okay, honey, strangle me? Hell no. She's gonna be grabbing that arm, she's gonna be ripping at it, she's gonna be ripping at him, she's gonna be losing her French manicured nails. None of that. There's no evidence of that at all. It makes no sense, their theory. None.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this case, nobody else was home that night. Nobody saw Ryan Widmer put Sarah's head into the water. But we know that Sarah died of drowning. We know that her body was dry, but only her hair was damp. We know that injuries consistent with violence were found on her body, consistent with being held over a hard surface to produce a compression injury, and the defendant is the only person home. On the night of August 11th, the wonderful life that was Sarah's is gone. We're going to ask you to accept what is reasonable and reject what is unreasonable. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to return a verdict of guilty, that Ryan Widmer is guilty of the aggravated murder of his wife, Sarah.